Welcome back to Reliable Prepper. Today, we're covering a topic that can literally be life-saving escape and evasion techniques in urban environments. Whether you live in a major city or a smaller urban area, things can go bad very quickly. Whether it's a natural disaster, civil unrest, or even criminal activity, knowing how to escape dangerous situations and avoid threats could be the difference between life and death. In this video, we'll walk through some of the most important aspects of urban escape and evasion techniques, and how you can apply them to stay safe in some of the worst scenarios imaginable, from blending into a crowd to finding alternate routes, and staying safe when things escalate. I've got you covered. And don't forget, if you find this video helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future updates. You can also follow me on Facebook for more content. Plus, if you haven't already, be sure to sign up for my free bi-weekly newsletter where you'll receive my new ebook, Surviving Civil Unrest, a complete guide instantly. Now let's get started. The first thing you need to master when it comes to escape and evasion is situational awareness. I cannot emphasize enough how critical it is. If you're not aware of what's going on around you, you're already at a disadvantage, and in an emergency situation, that can be deadly. Situational awareness is about staying alert, keeping your head up, and continuously scanning your environment. It's easy to get distracted by your phone or be in a rush, but if you want to stay safe, you need to make a habit of being aware. Look for exit points, choke points, areas where you can hide, and potential dangers. For example, when you're on your daily commute or running errands, take note of where you could quickly duck into a building or alley if you needed to. What's the fastest way out of a crowded area? Are there places you can use as temporary cover if something goes wrong? Just taking a few moments to mentally map your surroundings can give you a serious advantage in an emergency. Also, pay attention to people. Is anyone acting suspiciously? Is someone following you? Trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Your brain often picks up subtle cues before you consciously realize there's a problem. Learning to listen to your gut can save your life. Finally, let's talk about crowds. Crowds can either be your ally or your worst enemy, depending on the situation. In a peaceful protest, for example, it might be easy to blend in, but in a riot or a panicked crowd, you could find yourself trapped. When moving through a crowd, stay on the outskirts. The middle is where things can get chaotic, and your mobility will be severely limited. Now let's move on to route planning. In an urban environment, it's crucial to have multiple routes planned for every place you regularly visit, whether it's home, work, or the grocery store. This is especially important during a crisis when main roads might be blocked or congested. If you live in an apartment building, for example, you should know the location of the nearest fire exits, stairwells, and emergency escapes. But also think about less obvious routes. Can you access the roof? Are there basement exits that could serve as an escape route in an emergency? These alternatives might not seem useful in your day-to-day life, but in an emergency, they could be life-saving. Also, consider the time of day and how traffic patterns change. A quiet street in the morning could become jam-packed with cars during rush hour. In an emergency, side streets or alleyways might be your fastest way out. Plan ahead, and always have at least 2 or 3 alternative routes in mind. Pre-planning is essential not just for daily routines, but for emergencies. If you know something dangerous is happening in your city, like civil unrest or protests, take the time to plan your routes carefully. Avoid hotspots and high-traffic areas, and always have a way out. One of the most important skills for urban escape and evasion is blending in. The last thing you want during a dangerous situation is to stand out and draw attention to yourself. The goal here is to look as unremarkable as possible, just another face in the crowd. So how do you blend in? Start with your clothing. In urban environments, neutral colors like gray, black, and dark blue are your best friends. Avoid bright colors or flashy accessories that could make you memorable. You don't want to be the person in the red jacket that everyone remembers. You want to be someone that no one notices or pays attention to. It's also about your behavior. If the situation is chaotic, people are running, panicking, or yelling, your goal is to remain calm and composed. Move with purpose, but don't rush or appear frantic. If you look nervous or scared, people will notice you. At the same time, if you act too confident or aggressive, you might attract unwanted attention. Strike a balance. There's a fine line between blending in and hiding. Sometimes the best way to avoid detection is to be completely out of sight, but other times it's better to blend in and be invisible in plain sight. Use your judgment based on the situation. When we think about camouflage, we usually picture someone wearing forest green in the wilderness, but urban camouflage is different. In the city, camouflage is all about blending into the urban environment so that you don't attract any attention. One of the easiest ways to do this is by mirroring the crowd around you. If you're in a business district, dressing like a business person will help you blend in. In a more casual neighborhood, a simple jacket and hat can help you look like just another local. In addition to clothing, use your surroundings to your advantage. Stick close to walls, vehicles, or structures that can help conceal you. Parked cars, pillars, or trash bins can serve as temporary cover while you're moving through a dangerous area. Stay in shadowy areas or use the backsides of buildings where there's less foot traffic. When it comes to interactions, avoid direct eye contact with people who might pose a threat. You want to be aware of what's going on around you, but you don't want to stare at anyone and make them take notice of you. Practice casually glancing at people without drawing attention to yourself. Having the right gear with you is essential in any escape and evasion scenario, especially in an urban environment. Let's talk about your EDC or everyday carry kit. Your EDC should be lightweight and small enough to carry with you at all times, but practical enough to help you out in an emergency. At a minimum, you should carry a few key items: a multi-tool, which could include a knife depending on your local laws, a flashlight, a phone charger or power bank, and some cash. These basic items can help you handle a variety of situations. A multi-tool, for example, can help you cut things, fix small objects, or even provide basic protection in a legal, non-combative way. A flashlight is critical for navigating dark areas, especially if the power goes out, and cash is king if electronic payment systems are down. For longer-term emergencies, it's smart to have an emergency bag or go bag. This should contain essentials like bottled water, non-perishable food, a first aid kit, weather-appropriate clothing, and maps of your local area. Make sure this bag is small enough to carry with you, but packed with everything you might need to survive for a few days on the move. When it comes to communication, always have a backup plan. In some emergencies, cell towers might go down, or the government could shut down certain networks. Shortwave radios, CB radios, or even walkie-talkies are excellent options for staying in touch with others when standard communication channels are down. Now let's talk about escaping from buildings, because in a city, you're more likely to find yourself indoors when things go bad. Whether you're at work, in a shopping mall, or at home, knowing how to get out of a building quickly and safely is crucial. The first rule is to always be aware of where the exits are. As soon as you enter a building, take a moment to identify the emergency exits. Don't rely solely on the main entrance, because in a panic situation, everyone will head there, and it could quickly become overcrowded or even dangerous. If you're in a high-rise building, avoid elevators in emergencies. Elevators can get stuck if the power goes out, or they could malfunction if there's a fire. Always use the stairwells and make sure you know where they are. If the stairwells are blocked, look for windows. Some buildings have windows that can be opened, while others might need to be broken in an emergency. Keep in mind that breaking a window should only be a last resort, and you need to be careful to avoid injury. If you must break a window, use something heavy and aim for the corners, where the glass is weakest. Protect your hands and face from the shards. In a high-rise building, if the windows are your only option, you should have a plan. Some people keep portable emergency ladders that can be hooked over windowsills for quick evacuation. If you don't have one, you may need to improvise with sheets, curtains, or other materials. But remember, this should only be done as a last resort and with extreme caution. In any emergency, dealing with authorities or other potentially hostile individuals is something you'll need to be prepared for. The key is to remain calm and cooperative. Most of the time, law enforcement or military personnel are there to help, but they're also managing a chaotic situation. If you're stopped by authorities, always remain non-confrontational and follow instructions. Provide identification if asked, and avoid doing anything that could escalate the situation. In these high-stress moments, staying calm can make the difference between resolving the situation peacefully or it escalating into something more dangerous. On the other hand, if you find yourself in a situation with hostile individuals, whether it's a mugger, looter, or someone else threatening you, you need to assess the situation quickly. Sometimes compliance is your best option, especially if the person just wants your wallet or valuables. However, if you believe your life is in immediate danger, look for opportunities to de-escalate the situation or to escape if it's safe to do so. Always try to use a calm and measured tone. Sometimes, appealing to the humanity of the person you're dealing with or buying time can give you the opening you need to get out of a dangerous situation. Next, we need to talk about surveillance. In any urban environment, surveillance is nearly impossible to avoid. Security cameras are everywhere, on street corners, inside businesses, and at major intersections. So if you're trying to evade detection, understanding how to navigate these areas is key. First off, minimize the amount of time you spend in high surveillance areas, like busy intersections, public transportation hubs, and government buildings. These places are likely hotspots for cameras. If you need to move through them, do so quickly and discreetly. When it comes to avoiding facial recognition or identification, there are ways to obscure your appearance legally and practically. Wearing a hood, a hat, or sunglasses can help reduce the chance of being recognized, but always be mindful of the situation. You don't want to draw suspicion by wearing something that's out of place. Another major concern is electronic surveillance. Your smartphone, credit cards, and other devices constantly broadcast signals that can be tracked. If you need to avoid detection, turning off your phone or putting it in airplane mode can help, but the safest option is to leave it behind or use a burner phone. Always disable location services and be careful with digital communications. When moving through high surveillance zones, changing your appearance slightly after passing through a camera can help confuse potential tracking. Something as simple as switching jackets or putting on a hat after passing a surveillance area can make a difference. If you suspect someone is following you, tail evasion is a critical skill. It's easier than you think to be followed in an urban environment, especially in crowded areas. So here's how you can tell if someone is on your tail. One classic method is to make 3 consecutive turns in the same direction, like 3 right turns. If someone is still behind you, it's likely you're being followed. You can also vary your speed walk quickly, then slow down. If the person behind you matches your pace, that's a major red flag. Once you're sure you're being followed, the goal is to lose the tail. The best way to do this is by entering a crowded area or a building with multiple exits, like a mall or a large store. Go in one entrance and leave through another. You can also use stairs or service corridors to slip away. Another option is to use crowds to your advantage. A busy market, festival, or subway station can help you disappear. Just be cautious. While crowds can hide you, they can also trap you if the situation turns dangerous, so always have an exit strategy. Urban environments are filled with obstacles, but they can also provide opportunities for escape if you know how to navigate them. While you don't need to be a parkour expert, having some basic climbing and mobility skills can be extremely useful when you need to move quickly through the city. Start with the basics. Practice climbing over fences, low walls, and other barriers. It might seem easy in theory, but in a high-stress situation, muscle memory will save you precious time. If you're in a building, consider moving upwards rather than down. Rooftops can offer escape routes and vantage points that most people won't think to use. When climbing, always prioritize safety. Slippery surfaces, loose bricks, or unstable structures could lead to a serious injury, and a sprained ankle or fall could leave you vulnerable. Move quickly, but cautiously. One of the most effective ways to avoid detection is by changing your appearance. In an urban setting where people are constantly moving and interacting, a quick change in clothing or style can make you unrecognizable to someone who may have been watching you a few moments earlier. A disguise doesn't need to be complicated. Simply adding a hat, changing a jacket, or putting on sunglasses can alter how someone perceives you. For example, in a work district, blending in with a business crowd might just involve dressing in business casual attire. Remember, the goal of a disguise is to blend in and avoid attention. It's not about deceiving authorities or bypassing security checkpoints, but rather about changing how you're seen in a crowded, chaotic situation. In any escape and evasion scenario, communication is vital, but so is the ability to withdraw strategically without drawing attention. It's less about deception and more about being careful with the information you give off. For example, if you know someone might be tracking your movements digitally, consider using alternative methods of communication, like burner phones or encrypted messaging apps. These can help you stay connected with people you trust without broadcasting your location or plans to everyone. In a group situation, consider using hand signals or other nonverbal forms of communication to keep your movements discreet. This can help you avoid drawing attention and ensures you're not giving away your location through unnecessary noise or visible actions. In an escape scenario, there's always a risk that you might get hurt or injured. Knowing basic first aid and medical evasion techniques is essential for staying mobile and avoiding further harm. If you get a minor injury, like a cut or scrape, cleaning and bandaging it immediately can prevent infection. This is where your EDC first aid kit comes in handy. Simple items like antiseptic wipes, bandages, and medical tape can make all the difference. For more serious injuries like a sprain or broken bone, you'll need to stabilize the injury as best you can. Use makeshift slings or splints with materials you have on hand, like cloth or sticks. Try not to show obvious signs of injury such as limping, as this can make you a target. Move as naturally as possible, even if it hurts. If you're in a prolonged emergency or on the run, access to water and food will become a priority. Thankfully, even in an urban environment, there are still ways to find these resources. Water is your top priority. Public fountains, rivers, or rainwater collection can all serve as sources. Always have a portable water filter or purification tablets in your emergency kit to ensure any water you find is safe to drink. As for food, grocery stores and restaurants might be closed, but dumpsters behind these establishments can often contain discarded food that's still edible. You can also look for vending machines or convenience stores with non-perishable snacks. If you know you'll be in survival mode for an extended period, ration your resources carefully. Plan for the long term and don't consume everything all at once. If you're planning to completely escape the city due to civil unrest, natural disaster, or other threats, transportation is going to be a key factor. Ideally, you'd want to use a vehicle, as it offers speed and protection. However, main roads could be congested or blocked, so you'll need to know alternative routes, such as side streets or service roads. If you don't have access to a vehicle, public transportation might still be an option, but be aware that systems could shut down. A bicycle is a great alternative. It's fast, quiet, and doesn't rely on fuel. Once you're out of immediate danger, focus on securing a safe location where you can regroup and rest. Ideally, this would be somewhere outside the city, but if that's not possible, look for buildings with multiple exits, high vantage points, or secure basements. Establish communication with family or friends, and start thinking about long-term survival. And that wraps up our video on urban escape and evasion techniques. I hope you found this guide helpful and that it gave you some practical tips for improving your own emergency preparedness. Remember, these skills should only be used in life-threatening situations, so always stay within the law and focus on your safety first. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more prepping and survival content. You can also follow me on Facebook for more tips and updates. And don't forget to sign up for my free bi-weekly newsletter to get your copy of my new ebook, Surviving Civil Unrest, a complete guide at no cost. Stay safe out there, and until next time, take care.